Welcome inside the RxMuscle studios for another episode of Askdave, better known as #Askdave, sponsored by Species Nutrition. We are back after a week hiatus. It was madness last week. Of course, our entire team traveling to Las Vegas for the 2015 Olympia weekend. And what a show it was, what a weekend it was. 30-minute question and answer with Dave Palumbo. If you want to join in, you can tweet your questions using #AskDave. Ask your questions on the Muscle Central forum on RxMuscle.com. If you're not already a member, it is free to register on our Instagram page, official_RxMuscle, our Facebook page, RxMuscle.com. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, we just got back from Vegas yesterday, a jam-packed 2015 Olympia weekend.
Sid's a little, still has a concussion from this past weekend because I don't think he slept more than maybe 3 hours the whole week. Maybe the only person who might have slept less than him was Johnny Styles, who slept only like a half hour, I believe. Did you set the record? Is it 64 hours you went or something like that without sleep? 67 hours,
counting.
Johnny went. You went, what, about 46 hours?
Something like that, yeah.
I was very impressed. I saw the, wasn't really quite sure how big Ramy was until I saw him sitting next to you, Sid. And then I saw it was like the proverbial before and after picture. He's very big. And you just look very small next to big Ramy.
There's something about a 5'9.5" guy that weighs 170 pounds is going to make a guy who's 315 pounds look really, really big. That said, we are now going to get to the questions. We're going to start on the Muscle Central forum on RxMuscle.com. That said, we'd be remiss to not mention our sponsors, Results Nutrition, the entire March to the Olympia, and of course, the entire Olympia weekend. They provided generous support in everything that we did. So all the coverage that we provided over Olympia weekend brought to you by Results Nutrition. Do them a favor, go and follow them, show support for all the hard work that they put in behind us for us to bring all the coverage to you this past weekend. Dave?
Yeah, and also this coming weekend, Johnny Styles and Chris Aceto and Pierre Lamely will be at the Arnold Classic Europe. That's in Madrid, Spain. And SciTech Nutrition will be our sponsor for that event. So that's a big one. And then, of course, we have Prague the weekend after that and the Nordic Pro after that. So it's a big European tour this year. And I guess I'm looking forward to it. I won't be there, but I'll be doing all the coverage from afar. I have a pregnant wife at home. But Johnny Styles and Chris Aceto will be bringing it to you. Make sure you stay tuned to all the coverage. Plus, we still have a lot of coverage from the Olympia that we haven't even put up yet. I have a great interview. I'm not going to even tell you what Iris Kyle told me, but 10-time Miss Olympia, Iris Kyle, giving me some real big news. You guys are going to stay tuned for that a little later in the week.
And check RxMuscle.com right now. An interview with Dave and Rich Piana is live right now on the front page of RxMuscle.com. Let's go to the Muscle Central forum and start with Baby Muscle. Hi, Dave. It's great to have you back. What are your thoughts about the kind of food and size of a meal for a fat load for carb-sensitive females instead of carb load? I know you like mac nut oil in a shake, but I was also thinking of trying avocado and egg.
Yeah, there are women that I don't give carbs to. I don't carb them up. In the past, I did it a lot less. Nowadays, what I like to do is because the women, they don't really want the women too hard. Back in the bodybuilding days, I did that because they wanted them super, super shredded. Nowadays, they want the girls a little fuller, especially in physique and figure and even bikini. So I usually do give them some carbs at the end. But if you're like super carb sensitive and you're not in shape, usually, for a person who hasn't lost all the body fat yet, not a good idea to add carbs in at the end because it kind of makes you look worse. You could, increase your fats. Now, I never really decrease fats too low, but you could increase them. And what I usually do with a woman is about starting on a Thursday for a Saturday show, I'll add an extra tablespoon of macadamia nut oil to each of her 5 meals. Now, that's a lot of fat. That's 15 grams per meal times 5 meals. So that's an increase of like 75 grams of fat. So right there off the bat. Then what I'll do is I'll also add, I like to add nuts, avocado, peanut butter. But what I usually jack up the fat to is about 30 to 40 grams of fat per meal for a woman times 5 or 6 meals, depending on what the girl's metabolism and how big she is. And that seems to work real well. Fat and protein works well. I mean, look at Phil Heath this past weekend. He was like flat as a pancake at prejudging, almost lost the show because of that. Came back on Saturday night way better. When I saw him in the gym on Monday, he looked even crazier. I took a picture. It went viral. It's all over the place. Even he put it up on his Instagram. He looked so great. And I said, Phil, what'd you do? And what did he eat? He ate fat. He went and he ate Burger King and McDonald's and all kinds of fatty meals. You can't carb up just on carbs because when the muscles are that lean and you go flat, it could be the fat that's between the muscle cells. That's what we call intramuscular fat. So adding fats back into the diet from red meat, mac oil, avocados, peanuts, peanut butter, that kind of stuff will fill you out.
You're watching Askdave. Reminder, for the best I Hate This show, you're going to get Neutralized by Species Nutrition, the best overall question of the show. We will give you macadamia nut oil, which is available right now, speciesnutrition.com. Buy one, get one free. We go to David CUA. Hi, Dave. This show sucks as much as the 2015 Men's Open Olympia lineup. My question, do you have any news about Cedric? Is he in better health? Also, will we see a Chad Nichols versus Chris Aceto versus Dave iron debate?
I believe Cedric had just a viral infection. So, yeah, he is doing well. But, when you throw up like 10 times the day before a show, it's probably not the best idea to get on stage. However, I will tell you this. Chris Aceto told me that while Cedric was at his worst, he looked his best physique-wise. And, if he could have gotten up on stage, he would have. But he was so weak from, throwing up so much that it just, he couldn't make it. He had to go to the hospital and get some fluids in him. IV fluids. So while Cedric, might have been his best ever, he unfortunately didn't make it to the stage. And hopefully, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see him in Europe at all. So probably won't see Cedric to the Arnold Classic. As far as iron debate with Chad Nichols, I'd love to do it. I'd love to get Chad, Dennis James, and Chris. And that might be a great iron debate right there. The two gurus we didn't have on the Guru Wars. Maybe we'll make it Guru Wars 3. Or as we called it, Guru Mania 3. What happened to Guru Mania 2? I don't know, but
we just skipped over that one.
We'll skip that one. Yeah.
Let's go to BB50 Plus. Dave and Sid. Well, another year of Olympia coverage, and this show still has not gotten any better. The word for the day is legs. Help spread the word. Very nice. When squatting, and if one can, is it better to go ass to grass or just parallel? Example, a bit lighter weight through a full ROM, or a bit heavier weight with a slightly less than full ROM. Also, are box squats safe? Someone told me one time that when your butt hits the box, the compression of the bar on your spine is not a good thing. Thoughts?
I don't like box squats at all. I think they're dangerous. I think that once you put your butt on that box, it takes your mind off of the weight you're holding, and it almost acts like a rest. And it's very hard to re-engage all your muscles again. So to me, it's a distraction. I think it's dangerous. I know powerlifters use it to generate strength and help with their lift out of the hole, their squat out of the hole. For powerlifters, fine. Bodybuilders should not be doing box squats. And you should never use a limited range of motion. I know there's guys out there that do it, and they look good. But by and far, if you want full development, you got to use full range of motion.
Let's go to PA Kodiak. Dave, how can one make the most out of their post-contest rebound if one wants to maximize lean muscle gains without putting any excess fat on? What would be your approach for diet, supplements, drugs, and training post-contest?
Post-contest, if you're on drugs, you should really clean out. Because your body's going to have those drugs in its system for the next 4 weeks anyway. So you're going to get a good rebound. I always have my guys maybe go 2 weeks on a little bit of testosterone, maybe 250 a week, and then come off. And by the time 4 or 5, 6 weeks goes by, they still have stuff in their body and they're still making gains. Having said that, obviously you don't want to restrict your food intake after your contest, or you won't get that nice rebound afterwards. Having said that, that doesn't mean you should be eating Dunkin' Donuts every day and eating junk food, high quality nutrients. With a cheat meal here and there. Obviously, you don't want to deprive yourself of that. People who put fat on real easy, don't go crazy with the carbs. It's that simple. I mean, I know people like to eat carbs after the show. That's fine. But if you're eating 1,000 grams of carbs a day, even if they're clean carbs, you're going to get fat. Bottom line. Same thing with women. If you eat brown rice and quinoa and baked potatoes and stuff like that, it doesn't matter. If you're eating too many grams of carbs, you're going to get fat. So you got to figure out kind of what the perfect storm is, what the perfect amount is. Personally, I couldn't get fat after a show. A lot of bodybuilders are like that with a lot of muscle mass. They can eat pretty much what they want. You will get very bloated, however. So if you're retaining water because you're rebounding off of the diuretics and off the water restriction from the show, you might want to stay on a little bit of diuretic for a couple days till your body normalizes itself. Don't go insane right out of the gate, right after the show. Maybe wait 3, 4, 5 days until your body regulates itself fluid retention-wise. Otherwise, you're going to be very uncomfortable.
You're watching Askdave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. Let's go to Big Mike Cox. It seems that everyone in this industry knew how corrupt Lee Thompson was, but it seems that nobody said anything until now. Did you have a clue what Lee was up to?
I had no clue that he was starting his own organization. I thought he was. I thought he liked the power that he had in the IFBB NPC. I guess he abused it a little too much, and maybe they punished him a little bit, and I guess he didn't want to take the punishment like all the rest of us did, so he left. I mean, that's his prerogative. I think the problem is not that he left. I think people have the problem, and I know the organization has the problem with the fact that he hacked or took the same initials for his organization. If you want to start your own organization, come up with your own organization initials. Call it the LTC, Lee Thompson Committee, or whatever. I don't know what you want to do. Lee Thompson Bodybuilding, LTBB. Make up your own initials. Don't steal the initials that are already being trademarked and being used by the current organization. It creates market confusion, which is the first violation of trademark infringement. So that's stupid. I think that's really what people were upset about, the fact that he's trying to confuse athletes into not understanding that what he's running is not the same thing as what is the standard NPC, NPC being the National Physique Committee that we all have been competing in. So I think that's the issue. My own personal issues or confrontations with Lee Thompson, I could talk about it another time for a very long time. But I think everyone has the right to do what they want to do. And if he chose to do that, then good for him. I don't choose to support it, but he has the right to do it.
Let's go to PTB, still in the Muscle Central Forum on RxMuscle.com. If you're not already a member, free to register. This is where we have all our banter, all the analysis, all the conversations, and of course, everything post-Olympia. And then, of course, all the talk about the Arnold Spain, all the play-by-play on the Muscle Central Forum. For guys over 40 years old and not on any anabolics, how often should one get blood work for a physical? I've always thought that once per year in your 20s and 30s was fine, but once you turn 40, things start happening that you don't expect, and I would think taking a physical or having blood work twice a year would be better to increase likelihood of finding things like tumors and cancers sooner. Do you agree?
I agree with everything you said except for the last statement. I think that it's a good idea to get a physical and blood work twice a year. Even if you're in your 20s, if you're a bodybuilder using anabolic steroids, you should definitely get blood work twice a year. Unfortunately, taking blood work is not going to tell you if you have tumors or anything growing inside of you. It's just going to tell you how your kidneys are functioning, how your liver is functioning, how your blood looks, whether your white blood cell count, your red blood cell count. If you're testing vitamin levels, what your vitamin B12 levels are, D3 levels are. If you're testing hormone levels, testosterone, estrogen, DHT, cortisol, progesterone, prolactin, those kind of things. So that's really all you can tell. You're not going to be able to tell if there's something going on inside your body unless you have like a full body scan done, which no one's going to do, and probably is not warranted unless you do have some symptoms. So, having said that, I think when you hit 40, it's a good idea to start having regular echocardiograms once a year at least, which checks how your heart works and how much volume and blood it's pumping out, if it's doing it efficiently. It's a good idea to get an EKG. It's a good idea to get a prostate exam over a certain age. I don't know what that is yet because I haven't had one, but I'm probably old. Probably over 45 is probably a good idea. I think they say 50. Then you're supposed to get, a colonoscopy starting at 50 and over. So, there's certain tests. Colonoscopies will tell you if you have any polyps or anything growing in your colon, so that's a good idea. But for the general bodybuilder, I think blood work twice a year is a good idea. Don't get blood work when you're in the midst of a humongous cycle too, because it's gonna come back abnormal. That goes without saying. So usually before you start, when you stop, which means that you should go off at least once a year.
Let's go to our official Facebook page. It's facebook.com/rxmuscle.com, all one word. Let's go to Alex Reese. I hate this show so much that I would rather scroll through my newsfeed for 30 minutes reading people complain about how Kai Green didn't make it to the Olympia while George Farrell tells me how well he could have done. My girlfriend has a rare bone disorder in her leg, causing it to break easily as it has 3 times already. She's 23 and has a metal rod going from her knee to hip, which enables her to do things. She often asks if she should go heavier on the other leg because it can handle it. What is the ideal to keep symmetry and optimal growth of both her legs?
I don't think that you should ever really train one leg more than the other on a regular basis. Now, let me preface that. That means, let's say I tore my quad. Okay, obviously I'm going to train my good leg. I can't train my bad leg the way I train my good leg. But once my legs have now gotten back to semi-normal and I have full range of motion, I squat, but I don't do, like, in other words, I can only squat, let's say 225, with strict reps with both my legs. My other leg can probably squat a lot more. That doesn't mean I go on the leg press and lift more with my left leg and not as much with my good leg. I always limit how much I'm lifting by what the weak leg can do so that I can maintain symmetry and my gait, my walking gait, my running gait remains even. If you overdevelop one side from the other, you're going to have a limp. It's going to look ridiculous and you're not going to walk properly. So I think that it's important to strengthen the muscles, and I understand that there is a weakness she has in her leg, but don't go crazy and don't try to train the leg that is more or stronger more, because I think that that's going to be a mistake and it's going to alter her gait a little bit.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. 30-minute question and answer with Dave Palumbo. Sadiq Faruqi reminding you, go to RxMuscle.com right now. Check out our contest gallery. Again, brought to you by Results Nutrition. We have pictures from all the divisions, all the competitors. Contest gallery on RxMuscle.com. We now go to our Instagram page, official_RxMuscle, and we start with TFlex_17. A good one here, Dave. I hate this show so much I'd rather pick a fight with anyone over any little thing that Phil Heath does. I am not sure if you've seen the latest photo from Kai Green on his Instagram page wearing the blue trunks in front of a white backdrop, but the photo is very impressive. Granted, a professional photographer took the picture, but it doesn't seem tampered with. If he shows up to the Olympia looking like he did in that picture, what do you think his chances are to win?
Guess what? You got to be in it to win it. You don't show up, you can't win. Guess what? It doesn't matter how you look. Because you know what? I've seen guys, photos before the show in the gym that look like champions, and they came to the show and they didn't even place top 5. So I don't care what Kai Green looks like in the photos. You can't win a show based on photos. You got to show up. I had a one-on-one discussion with Phil Heath, which I don't really get a lot of time with him alone, but I was in the gym on Monday. He was doing a photo shoot, and we were hanging out and just bullshitting, shooting the shit, and we were talking about how, he kind of needs to come in fuller, and he got to eat a little bit more, fats before the show. And we were talking just about that. He goes, the truth is people think that, Kai is messed up because I've beat him, the last couple of years. I beat him mentally last year, and I think that's why he's not coming back. That was the most severe beating I could ever give to him. And he was right. I truly believe that after Kai lost the Olympia last year with that whole battle that ensued on stage, once he dropped, and then he's dropped out of Prague halfway through, that's not Kai Green. Chris Aceto said it too. I just think he was mentally beaten, and I think for him to be able to get back on stage, he's going to have to do some serious soul searching, not the I believe, seminars he goes out and gives. He's going to need to go talk to someone professionally. I would if I were him, and work through some of the issues that he's having mentally, because he'll never win the Olympia unless he gets this strong. He's got a very strong body, but he doesn't have a very strong mind in the sense that, he feels he can win. I know he says he wants to win, but I don't know if he believes it himself.
Let's go to XX Mike HXX, sticking with the Kai Green theme. Do you think Kai Green isn't legally allowed to compete? That's why he didn't do the Olympia and is only guest posing at the Arnold Classic in Spain.
No, I think he could compete. I've talked to some serious high up people, and every single person has told me he absolutely can compete. There was no hard feelings, and there was nothing. It was he. From what I understand, Kai Green was trying to pull a power play on the IFBB or on AMI. He lost his contract when he left Muscle Meds. He basically wanted a booth at the Olympia. He didn't. I guess he wanted to share his booth with Aaron Singerman and company there who are helping him with his company. They said, look, you got to buy your own booth. He said, I'm not going to sign the contract. I think he had some lawyers whispering in his ear that he shouldn't sign the contract because the Olympia has the right to use his photos. These are all things that I heard. I don't know if any of them are actually true. And he was basically trying to hold out, like a guy would hold out from signing a contract for in an NFL football team. And talks fell through, and they basically said, look, sign this thing or you're not competing. And he said, no, I'm not signing it. And so guess what? He didn't compete. And that's the truth or the reality of the truth. He might, in his mind feel that he was victimized, but it doesn't matter. If he would have signed the contract, he would have been on stage. And then, you know what? If he didn't get a good placing, we could have talked about it afterwards. But you got to be on the stage to win the show.
Let's go to Hurricane Sugar, still on our Instagram page. I hate this show so much that I would rather be the guy who has to take food away from Big Ramy when he's working with Xxxiii so he can finally be conditioned on stage. How much more weight would Jose Raymond have to put on in order to be competitive in the open class, and should he try it?
I think that Jose probably could maybe win a few open shows. Especially some of the shows I've seen this year that were from Hungary, as my dad would say. But Jose's got a great physique. The problem is he's very short. So when you see him on stage next to taller guys, he kind of gets lost a little bit. Same thing with Flex Lewis. Flex Lewis is so impressive looking, and then you see him next to guys like Dennis Wolf, even Dexter Jackson, and he doesn't look so impressive anymore because he's not as big as these guys. So I think what the issue is that I don't think Jose would ever do well on an Olympia stage in the open. But I certainly think if he decided, hey, I'm going to do an open show this weekend, I'm in shape already, I think he could definitely place top 3.
Let's go to, and I always have trouble with his name, Reedy Paleja. I hate this show so much more than George hates Chris. Dave, have you contacted Tom Platz? We want him on RxMuscle so bad.
I interviewed Tom many years ago when I was with Muscle Development on the radio show there. And it was like an over an hour interview, and it was great because Tom is, just very philosophical about training. He's passionate about it. He's a smart guy. He's got many degrees. He's got so much insight into the sport. It probably is time for me to contact him again and see if I can get him on either a radio show, maybe get him on a Live with Dave Palumbo TV show, because he is still very, very popular, and people like his philosophy, and he's not afraid to say what's on his mind. So we'll look into that. That's a good idea. Thanks.
Good question here from Torin_Davis34. You hear all this talk about Sean Roden and his bottom stomach and how it cost him from the Olympia. Why does Phil get a pass from last year from his stomach and Sean doesn't?
Well, it always comes down to, can you beat Mr. Olympia? Once you got the title, you got to take it away from the title holder. Sean didn't have. If Sean was Mr. Olympia, he probably would have won this show. He was in second place after prejudging. I don't think they would have taken it away from him if he was the Mr. Olympia. Having said that, he wasn't Mr. Olympia. To beat Mr. Olympia, you got to be flawless. You got to come in with perfection, like when Jay beat Ronnie, or when Dexter beat Jay, for that matter. So you can't, or when Phil beat Jay, you can't come in a little off, because they're always going to side with Mr. Olympia. That's just the way it's been. That's the way it always will be, and it should be that way, because it should be hard to knock off the champ.
Another good one here from Strain and Gain. Dave, hate this show so much, I'm going to send Matt Duvall back in time to terminate you before you can create this or any other RxMuscle programming. Good question here. How come the men's Open Olympia seems to be getting worse and worse in terms of hitting conditioning, whereas the 212 Olympia seems to be getting better and better, and more often than not, everyone seems to hit their peak conditioning, making it way more competitive? Is this a drug thing? Is it size related? Or is it the increasing prize money down to 10th place, making the open guys lazy, whereas the 212ers have to place higher to make a fraction of that coin?
The answer is very simple. The 212 guys got to make 212, so they got to make weight, and all these guys are over 212, so they have to get down to weight, and in doing so, they wind up getting in great condition. If there was a limit on the open class, you would see guys in better shape as well. It's always the case. To go to the Nationals, you look at these middleweight guys and these lightweight guys, they're shredded, and then you see the super heavies, and they're not as hard. So when you have to make weight, everyone's in shape, pretty much. I mean, that's just the way it goes. In the open class, it's hit or miss. Now, you would think everyone would want to come in shape, since usually conditioning wins shows. But guys come in off every single year. And we always say in an ideal situation, when everyone's in shape, who would win? And that's how we usually handicap the show, and we usually make our predictions based on that. But we all know that's never the case. There's always going to be a couple guys out of shape. This year, it just so happened that almost everyone wasn't in shape. So, that's why I said it was one of the worst lineups I've had ever witnessed. Now, that doesn't mean the competitors were bad. It just means that their conditioning wasn't great. Wolf was too flat. Roden had the stomach issues. Dexter was probably at his best, but he's not the biggest guy there. Phil was very flat. Rami was too overweight. And the list goes on and on and on. So no one was really their best. And when that happens, usually that favors Mr. Olympia. Now, it wouldn't have favored Mr. Olympia had Phil not come back better on Saturday night. Had he looked like he did it on Saturday, Dexter would be Mr. Olympia again. So that's just the way it goes. The lineup is dictated by what people bring to the stage. And the open guys don't have to make weight, so a lot of times they try to come in too big, or they suck down too much and they go the opposite direction. And I think we saw a little bit of both of that in this year's event.
Let's go to Mr_Go-Get-It5. I hate this show so bad that I'm almost about to start a petition to remove it from YouTube. Not really. I actually look forward to all the things that you guys post. What are good ways to help keep the level of protein that do not digest due to high protein diets? Doctor told me I have ketones in my urine and I was working on my kidneys. Says too hard, please help.
Ketones, in the body usually mean that you're on a very low carb diet. If you're on a very low carb diet and your brain has no fuel, because the brain likes to use glucose as a fuel source, your brain will start burning fats for fuel. But what it does is it turns the fats into what we call ketones or ketone bodies. And that's what it uses for fuel. When the brain is using ketones for fuel, you're said to be in a state of ketosis. When you are in a state of ketosis, you'll pee ketones into your urine. That's one of the ways the body gets rid of them. And so that's why they'll come up positive on keto strips. Now, not all keto strips are really accurate. I've put guys on ketogenic diets, as you know, and sometimes they don't even have any reading on the keto strips. So that doesn't mean anything. Now, in terms of protein turning into other stuff, protein usually, if you eat too much protein, invariably your body gets rid of most of it by just breaking it down, what we call deaminating it and eliminating it from the body. Protein doesn't turn into ketones. Okay, only fats turn into ketones. If you're eating too much protein, or you think you're eating too much protein, and you feel a little toxic, or your breath is very ammonia-y, has a lot of ammonia smell to it, cut back your protein intake. That's all there is to it. Unless you're eating 2+ grams of protein per pound, you're probably not eating too much protein if you're training hard.
Let's go to Socrates the Great. I hate this show so much I'm going to call Lee Thompson and start my own show and name it RxMuscle. Very nice. What would be the reason an athlete like Sadiq's abs would almost disappear on show day? He has some of the best abs in the business. Is this due to water depletion or not carbing up enough? I see this a lot and wonder why it happens.
Sadiq looked very flat to me, and his tan wasn't really that short. I don't know what he used for tanning. It looked off. Jeremy Buentia's tan was awesome, and that was one of the reasons I thought he looked so polished. To me, Sadiq looked like he was very fat depleted, because I know he does carb up. I'm thinking maybe he needs to add more fat into his diet, because like I said earlier in the show, there's fat between the muscle fibers, okay? And inside the muscle fibers. And if that fat gets depleted because you have no other fat anywhere else on your body, and your body starts eating into that intramuscular fat, then what happens is the muscles go flat, just like they would if they were carb depleted. So a lot of times, like what Phil experienced, you start eating junk food, especially fatty junk food, after a show, all of a sudden the abs start to pop, the body starts waking up. I think, to be honest with you, Sadiq might have been a little too depleted.
Let's go to Matt Fritzler 95. I hate this show so much I would rather watch Ask Bleckman. Dave, how many years do you think it'll be before we see Phil beaten and not just Phil winning by default?
I think that Phil has a real good physique. I don't think he's the best Mr. Olympia of all time. I think he's got a lot of gifts, no pun intended, that are hard to deal with. And I think that the lineup lately has not been doesn't really contain anyone who's like a superstar. I think Roden is really good, and I think Roden does challenge him, but unless Roden's perfect, he's not going to beat Phil. Kai is out of action, obviously. Dennis Wolf has a lot of trouble coming in with the perfect balance of conditioning and fullness. It's only done it once or twice, okay? And he never seems to be able to do it both at the prejudging and at the finals. So who does that leave? Who can beat Phil? Dexter is good, but he's not that good. The only way Dexter will win is if Phil comes in really off. So the only person who could really knock Phil out is Big Ramy. And we have yet to see Big Ramy coming in shape. Now, there are rumors, and there have been talks that Chris Aceto might be working with Ramy again. There's a very good chance. I think some more talks will probably go on this weekend in Madrid, Spain. If that happens, I would put my money on Xxxiii getting Big Ramy in shape. And if Big Ramy comes in shape, I think Phil should be very, very scared at that point because I think this guy can knock Phil off. And if he does, and if Ramy does work with Chris for the whole year, I think that it could possibly be done next year. That's how quickly.
Let's go to Jacob Hulk 777. I hate this show so much. I would rather read how all the trolls have the secret to getting in shape when none of them have ever worked out. Dave, after prejudging, how is it possible that Phil still won? And did you have Jose beating Flex?
Phil should never have been winning after prejudging. He should have been like third or fourth. I don't know why the judges had him winning after prejudging. Maybe because he was Mr. Olympia. I don't agree with that decision. However, I do agree with the fact that Phil deserved to win at the night show, at the finals, I should say. So I actually had it a tie between Roden and Phil because I thought Phil got a little better at the end of prejudging. Most people had Phil in third or worse. If he was in third or worse, mathematically, he probably couldn't have won the show. Dexter probably should have won the show, or Roden for that matter. So having said that, I don't know. I like I said, I've seen worse Olympias where, like Jay Cutlass should never win the year he shouldn't have beat Victor Martinez, who was winning after prejudging. I don't know how that happened either. But I truly believe, I do believe, if Phil came back looking as bad as he did at prejudging at the finals, they would not have given him the Olympia title. He probably would have wound up second or third. But I think the fact that he came back better, that's what saved him. And as far as Jose goes, I had Jose winning a few shots. I had him winning front double bicep against Flex. I even had him winning rear double bicep, even with Flex's crazy glutes. And I had him winning a couple other. I had the most muscular also. So, I mean, but Xxxiii and I think, made this pretty clear on Heavy Muscle Radio. You don't win shows based on how many poses you win. You win shows based on overall impression. And Flex was just polished. He was the best he's ever been. He's Mr. Olympia. And I think that was just too much going for him to take the title away from him. I thought it was a good decision by the judges.
Let's go to Liam Pepin. Dave, any advice on how I can treat thoracic outlet syndrome? Would it be career-ending if a pro had thoracic outlet syndrome and he puts in parentheses, shoulder, upper back, arm affected?
Look, nothing is incurable. I would go for a bunch of different modalities, from acupuncture to ART. I would go for massage regularly. I would put the EMS unit on there to electrically stimulate it. You got to do all your therapies. You got to do all your therapeutics. You want to make sure you take, a lot of joint support supplements. And nothing's incurable. I don't believe what the doctors, when they say, it's never going to go away. I don't believe that. I think that if you have a will and a desire to find a way to make it happen, and you go through all the steps necessary, I think you can cure anything. I've seen people who they told would never walk again, and they're walking, and they're running again. So I would never put something in your head, I can't. As soon as you say I can't, that's it. You're never going to be able to do it.
Question from Abdullah_Alami. Hi, Dave. What is the optimal method for using site enhancement oils, painless synthesizzle? What is the recommended dosage? How frequent? Any advice about rotating the shots?
That's something that it's impossible for me to address it here. Unless I had a chalkboard and showed you. So if you want to email me, you can email me and I can send you a protocol. So we'll just hold off on that one.
Let's go to Alpha Junior _. Hey Dave, Team Palumbo client Ruben Junior Moreno here. Want to ask, what's a great way to add size to the lower part of the quads near the knee?
That was always something that I wanted to do when I was, competing, because I always had these big uppers. And, a lot of times it's a genetic thing, and it takes time. Because, remember, when you have a long leg, the muscle elongates first before it rounds off. Same thing with arms. A lot of guys, I want those baseball-sized, biceps. Well, if you have a long arm, the muscle has to grow long before it can start growing like this. It doesn't just round off. On short guys, they got that round muscle already because their arm length is short. Same thing with the legs. Your muscle must grow this way. So Ruben happens to be a younger guy. It's going to take a longer time for him to fill his leg out. But once that muscle gets as long as it can go, then you'll start seeing it round off like this, and you'll start seeing those heavy teardrops on the bottom. The trick is, don't stop squatting. Don't stop training. Be patient. Be persistent, and know it will show up. We'll
take one more question from our Instagram page, and we go to Jacoby _Obi. Dave, I just got Species Fiberlyzed, and I'm wondering when's the best time to take it? Would it make a steak meal or something with more saturated fat less absorbable so the meal is more healthy? And what happens if I take it with a pre-workout?
I take it before bed, usually on an empty stomach, or if I'm doing a protein shake, that's fine as well. And I usually do it midday. I try to do it in between meals, but it doesn't matter. Like if I'm going out to dinner and I'm in a hotel, I'll eat dinner. I'll go up to the room. I'll take my fiber and go to sleep. So it can be taken with. I wouldn't take it before a meal because it's gonna inhibit your appetite. To be honest with you. Now, if you take it with a fatty meal, theoretically it could absorb some of the fat and pull it out of the body, but probably not a significant amount. More likely it will. It more likely bulks the stool up and pulls toxins rather than fatty acids themselves. Having said that, however, I usually don't take my fiber with my essential fatty acid supplements just to play it safe. So when is the best time? Try to separate it by at least 6 hours or 8 hours. I do mine, like I said, around midday. Actually, sometimes it creeps into the later afternoon, like 4 p.m., and then I usually do it around midnight to 1 a.m. whenever I go to sleep.
All right, so that's going to do it for the question portion of the show. We're now going to give out the awards, the best I hate. We're going to give it to Socrates the Great on Instagram for saying that he is going to talk to Lee Thompson and start his own show and name it RxMuscle. So Socrates the Great, you win Species Nitralized pre-workout. Email me, sid@speciesnutrition.com, and we'll get that over to you. For the best overall question, Dave, I'm going to leave this to you. We had the one question, I'm just trying to see, it was from Strain and Gain, and that was about the comparison between the Open Olympians and the 212 Olympians, and why the 212 Olympians are coming in at more peak condition, and he stated different potential reasons as to why that is. And then we go to the Muscle Central Forum for PTB, and the question was regarding blood work, 40 between ages of 20 and 30, and then when they're in their 40s, how often should one get blood work done for a physical? Where do you lie on this one?
I think the blood work one. I was going to say Olympia since it's Olympia week, but let's go with the blood work one. I think that's a better question.
All right, so PTB, email me, sid@speciesnutrition.com. We will get you macadamia nut oil from Species Nutrition. Reminder, all the Olympia coverage is on RxMuscle.com, including the contest gallery. All the interviews, all the results, all the opinion pieces, and of course, all the commentary on the Muscle Central Forum. And of course, in the next few days, it is time for the post-Olympia tour. Arnold Spain, Johnny Styles, and Chris Aceto will have you covered, and of course, all the play-by-play on the Muscle Central Forum, and of course, all the interviews that they will be doing from Spain and from Prague. That's going to do for Askdave. We will see you next week right here on RxMuscle.com.